Welcome back to all my group. And now we are going to have a last period of this day. And we have Shilpa Suji. She'll talk on prose part. As earlier sessions, we had a discussion on poetry. And I told you that it's a very important part of literature. So now we are going to have a brief, I can say, a discussion on prose from Shilpa ma'am. So, without wasting much of time, I would like to welcome Shilpa ji. And ma'am, now you may continue with your presentation. Now the platform is all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. So I know it's a long session, you all are since morning. So we would be talking about prose. So in the morning you did grammar, then we did poetry. We will be talking about prose. So before we start over and we move on to prose, I would like to energize you all. So let's do a small activity. Tell me a verb starting with letter S. You can unmute yourself. One word, one verb. You can write in the chat box. So let me see how many verbs we are able to, connect. Please start telling me, unmute yourself. Any verb that is like sit, sleep, okay, see, swim, sit, see. Try not to repeat the words. Sir is not a verb. Say, okay. Think beyond it. Think beyond it. You can unmute also and you can speak also. Okay. Four. Swim already done. Slay. Smell. Good, good, good. Speak. Shine. Squeak. Simmer. You guys are doing a great job, fantastic job. Think more. Squirrel is not a verb. I want verbs. Smile is a verb. Sing already done. Scribble. Spit. Send. Start. Let's start the session. I will not stop. Spend, snore. Great, great going, guys. You all are fantastic, I must say. Here. State, speak. So, let us move ahead. I think you all are energized and thank you so much. Actually created a pool of verbs starting with S. I'll share a list also with you. So you can also see like, were you able to see those words or not? So these are some of the other verbs also. And many of these words we have already, you all have already written in the chat box. Slide, I think we missed slide. Specify, we missed. Spread, stack, sting, stretch, struggle, submit, succeed, suffer. So these are some of the words. So let us move ahead. Now let us talk about prose. It was just a short activity which you all can also take up with your, students also whenever you your online classes. We can take such short activities just to see are our children attentive or not, and if we need them to be energized, so we can do such short activities with them. So I would be sharing some more activities with you. in today's period, and tomorrow also I have a class of on prose. So let us move ahead. So what is prose? In the morning session, you learned about poetry. You did poetry. So now we'll be talking about prose. So any one of you who can tell me what is a prose? What do we mean by prose? You can unmute and you can tell. Any one of you? Okay, I'll tell you. So prose is basically it's verbal or written language that follows the natural flow of speech. It is the most common form of writing used in both fiction and non-fiction. So whatever we have in our text, that is not poetry, that is not in metric form. That is all prose. So we have a lot of examples of prose like story, we have autobiography, we'll talk about these things. So prose is words is so we can see prose is words in their best order. And when we are not using the metric form as we were using it in poetry, so rest all is prose. Any kind of narrative, we can say. So these are the different types of prose, fiction and non-fiction, like short story, novel, folktale, legend, fable, biography, autobiography, history, letter, diary, travelogue. So all these are types of prose. And all these kinds of prose are there in our English textbooks also. Like if you can correlate our English textbooks, which we are having the NCRT textbooks for our classes 6 to 10, so you can actually relate. We have all these kind of fiction and non-fiction in our textbooks. Can you give me some examples? The textbook. For example, short story. Any example of short story from our textbooks? Please give some example.
Two stories about flying.
Yes. Two stories about flying. They are short stories.
The black aeroplane and his first flight.
Black aeroplane. Yes. The Lost Child is again a short story.
Short story is example of such physical the author, physical the author.
Yes. Vakil sir, I was not able to hear you. Please be a little louder.
Ma'am, there is a one example another of short story, visible the author from class 10th.
One of the participants has also said Lost Child. Right. These are all short stories. Next, we move to novel. We had novels in class 10th and class 9th last year. Now we don't have. So, can you give me the example for the novel? Three Men in Boat, The Diary of a Young Girl. So, these were the novels which we were having in our curriculum. Right. So, short story, I have shared one example who did Patrick's homework, and folktale, The Shepherd's Tale. If we are taking example from our textbook, the folktale is The Shepherd's Tale. Any other folktale do we have in our textbook? Any other, if you can correlate and you can give example, folktale. The Legend of a Northland would be a legend only. Okay, we can put it in the category of folktale also. So next is legend, a legend of the Northland. Like I said, it's a legend. And next is fable, monkey and the crocodile. Stories which, what are fables? Stories which have animals as the characters and they have some moral ending. They give some moral values. So these are fable. Can you give me example of autobiography and history? First, let us talk about autobiography. Ant and the Cricket is also fable. My Childhood, right? And
Nelson
a
Mandela
biography
Walk to
is,
Freedom.
yeah, that will be, that is an, basically it is not an autobiography. It's a, what we can say, it's basically, one, it can be an autobiography, we can say that.
As it has been excerpt taken from his book, so that's
Yeah,
why I said.
yes. Autobiography is My Childhood. History, any chapter which talks about history.
Nelson Mandela, Long
Nelson
Walk
Mandela.
of Freedom.
Yes. Glimpses of the Past also. That also talks about history. Class 8th. And for diary, we have from the diary of Anne Frank. Travelogue, we have Kathmandu. So these are the different kinds of types of prose which are available in our textbook. We have more examples, but I am just giving you one example of each type. So let us move ahead. So these are the elements in prose fiction. It is plot, character and characterization, setting, point of view, theme. So these are the 5 elements in any prose fiction. So I repeat: plot, character and characterization, setting, point of view, theme. We'll talk about each one of them. So this is the plot. What is a plot? The plot relates to the events that happen in a story. Plot can be further divided into sub-elements such as introduction, rising action, climax, falling action, and resolution. It is basically the what of the story. कि आखिर story में था क्या? So what was the plot of the story? Plot usually begins with a problem and ends in the story's resolution. So generally we see in a plot, there is some kind of, climax, some problem is there, some climax is there. And that problem can be between humans and humans. It can be between human and nature. It can be between nature and nature. So it can be of any kind. So there is some kind of problem. And then in the end, in the story, it is basically resolved. It can be, the plot can be, it can be an open-ended plot also, and it can be closed one also. So next is the characters. So every story, every prose has some kind of characters. So the characters can be flat characters, the characters can be round characters. हम इसको इस तरह से भी कह सकते हैं, we can say it like it can be main characters and the secondary characters. Flat characters are types or caricatures defined by a single idea of quality. They have only a single idea, whereas round characters have the 3-dimensional complexity of real human beings. Basically, round characters are the main characters which writer has actually evolved during the in the story or in the prose. So they are the main characters, and flat characters are the secondary characters who are supporting, and we don't have much of information about these flat characters. The main point of view is related to the round characters only. And then we have characterization also. Normally we get questions also in our examination, and when we assess the students or we give them questions to speak, to think, we talk to them about the characterization, give a sketch. So these traits which are there in the character, these are sometimes given directly by the writer, or sometimes we derive it through the circumstances, through the dialogues which the characters have spoken, and whatever events that are happening in that plot. So these are some of the characteristics. It's basically a list of character traits which we can provide it to our students, we can give it to them, and we can tell them, whenever you are doing characterization, whenever you are writing a character sketch, you can use words from this list. I would request any one of you to please read out these words for me. Anyone? Okay, so let us do it like this. Any one name which starts with P. Let us see who is there with P.
Peaceful,
For me?
adventurous,
Yes.
peaceful,
Please read out all the words.
afraid, bewildered,
hello,
brave, fearful, charming, daring, determined, eager, enthusiastic, clear, friendly, jovial, lazy, moody, obedient, graceful, polite, quiet, reliable, rowdy, rescue, sly, talkative, timid, handsome, unfriendly, versatile, pretty, worried.
Thank you, Vijay sir. So this was the list of words which basically describe characters. We can share this list with our students, and we can, explain them the meanings also, and we can tell them that how these words can be used for creating or describing any character. So now I have some characters from our own prose, from our textbooks, from six. Bholi. Is it a flat character or a round character?
Character.
Which character?
Round.
Round. Okay. So, ma'am, can you give one word to any adjective describing Bholi?
Daring. Daring.
She was caring. She was
Daring.
daring also.
No,
Daring also.
daring.
Caring also and daring also.
Daring.
Both
Courageous. Courageous.
courageous
Courageous.
also. Yes, Jyoti ma'am, courageous. She was courageous. Any other word?
Bold. Bold.
Bold. She was bold.
Timid.
Confident
In
in the
initial
end.
stage.
She
In the very
yeah,
at the very beginning, she was timid.
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 And later on
Yeah.
she became confident.
Yeah.
Right. Let us take the next character, Wali. Madam writes of us, Wali.
Adventurous.
Adventurous. Yes, the first word in the list, adventurous. What else?
curious, hello, curious,
Yes, yes, Jyoti.
curious,
She was curious, right?
Playful.
She was playful. Playful, right? Okay.
Spoken.
See, once what I did with my students,
Innocent.
like
Innocent.
innocent,
Innocent.
right? Innocent. Sometimes what you can do with your students is you can compare the characters from different stories, from the different chapters. Like once what I did was I did basically a mind mapping for Bholi and Vali. I wrote both the characters on the blackboard, and I asked students to compare these characters. There are a lot of similarities also in these characters, and there are a lot of differences also in these characters. So that can also be done with help of Venn diagram. I'll give you one example for that Venn diagram also. You can write both the names, and then you can ask the students to tell the characteristics which are similar to both the characters and the characteristics which are not similar, the differences in their characters, and then ask them to give reasons also. Like if they're saying Bholi was courageous, why was she courageous? Always, whenever you are doing characterization with the students, ask them to give reference, the instances from the text, why they have chosen this word to describe this character. So it helps them to get a better idea. So that can be dialogue, that can be some statement, that can be some sentence given in the text. So with the help of that, they can basically develop the characters. So these are different characters: Patrick, Jody, Vipin Chandra, Vanda, Taro. All of these are basically the round characters, the main characters of the stories. And with the help of the list of the words which I have shared, we can do the characterization of these characters, and we can take instances from the story, from the prose, that why we are saying that these characters are having these traits. We will move on because we have less time, so I'll not discuss all the characters, but you can do this exercise with your students. The next is the setting. Setting is basically the combination of a place, historical time, social milieu that tells the background for that sets the general background for the character and plot of a literary work. We understand, we all of us understand what is a setting. In what situation, what was the place, what was the weather, what were the conditions. So all these describe the settings. Next is the point of view. With what point of view the writer has written the prose. So the vantage point from which a narrative is typically told from a first person or third person point of view. Normally, prose is written from the first person point of view or third person point of view. See, this is a grid. When it is a first person, the personal tone for writing is focused on the writer. He's writing with the first person, I, me, us. He's using these words. Second person is direct tone used when the writer knows the reader well and is writing to them. Normally, we have very less prose written in second person. Most of the prose is written in the third person. She, he, it, they, them, their, theirs. Formal universal tone for writing focused on events, issues, or people outside of the reader and writer. So it is written in the third person. So when we talk about point of view, we actually ask like what is the focus of my writing? Why I'm writing? Next is themes. Every prose has different kinds of themes. There are different themes. Like here I have a list of themes: maturation, love, sacrifice, metamorphosis, mystery, rivalry, revenge, escape, rescue, pursuit, adventure, quest, redemption, triumph of good over evil, discovery, fall from grace. So these are different kinds of themes. And if we can correlate with our textbook, so we can correlate that we have chapters, we have prose, we have narratives related to all these themes. I would be talking about some of these in the next slide. So the central and the dominating ideas in a literary work, that is what we mean by a theme. Theme also indicates a message or moral implicate in any work of art. So this is what we mean by theme. So these are the different themes which I have written here. Please give me some examples of the chapters. Like for the theme adventure, which example can we give from our textbook? From 6 to 8, any example?
Jody's Horn.
Madam rides the bus. Meenakshi ma'am is writing Madam rides the bus. Right. Any other example for adventure? The Adventures of Toto, we can also take it in this adventure only. And Madam rides the bus. Rescue. Rescue. We have a chapter in class 9th textbook. Rescue.
Weathering the storm in Itzama.
Yes, weathering the storm in Irzama. We can take it in this category, in this theme, rescue. For love, next we move on to love,
Bond of love.
the bond of love. It is basically love between humans and animals, the bond of love. Discovery,
Summit within.
which chapter, ma'am?
Summit within.
It's the summit within. Discovery, we have many chapters. We have a chapter on Albert Einstein also, making of a scientist. So we can take those chapters. Mystery,
Footprints without feet.
footprints without feet. Yes, that can be taken in mystery. That's a mystery chapter. Thief stories, mystery chapter. We have many chapters. Mystery, we have one chapter in class 7th also. Detectives. Revenge. A chapter on revenge in class 6th. Algu. I'm giving you a hint. Tell me the name of the chapter.
Fair play.
A fair play. Yes. Maturation, coming of age. Any chapter for this thing? On this theme? Maturation. I think we have different, not sometimes there are different themes in chapters also. Like for this maturation, we can take this Madam Rides a Bus because she was also coming of age. We can take that chapter Bholi also, a sermon at Banaras also. So different themes have different chapters. Kezia. Yes, we can have different chapters which we have different texts in our textbooks which are related to these themes. Let us move ahead. So now we'll talk about practical aspects of prose. I have given you theoretical basis for the prose. Now we'll talk about practically how to deal any chapter, how to deal a textbook, how we have to actually teach any chapter to our students. So any prose that is there in our textbook. First thing is we have some pre-reading activities, then we have while reading activities, then we have post-reading activities. And whenever we are dealing any one text, see, you have done listening, you have done speaking, you have done reading, you have done writing, you have done all the skills, you have done grammar also. So whenever we are taking up any chapter from our textbook, we don't have to take it in isolation. We don't just have to read it and then we have to give them examples for writing. We have to integrate all the skills whenever we are teaching any prose from our textbook. Whenever we are taking up any chapter, we have to integrate all the skills. We cannot just deal with the chapter like we are just reading the chapter. I'm just reading the chapter, I'm explaining the words, I'm telling them the meaning in the Hindi, and then I'll just say, do the question answer. This is not a way to deal with the chapter. It is a complete unit in itself. We have to integrate all the skills. Whenever we are giving reading practice to the students, whenever we are taking up reading skills also, when you have to reading skills practice to your students, what we need some text for that. We can use the text from the textbook. We can use the text from the textbook, the text from our chapters to give writing practice also to our students. We can use the text from our textbook to give speaking practice to our students. and we can use the text for providing them the listening skill also. So let us take one example. This is tsunami. So first activity is a pre-reading activity. We are just given a map of India. So it's basically a reading skill practice. Visuals we are giving. A map of India is given to them, and then they are asked name the water bodies, name the islands, name coastal areas. They have to see the map. They have to give the examples. They have to look from the the states, the capitals, and then they have to give the examples. Next is visuals. You can show them pictures, and they can look at the picture, then they can tell them which are the natural disasters and what has happened in these pictures. You can show them the real pictures. I brought some pictures for the natural disaster. You can see in the screen also. So it is there in the book itself, or you can bring it to the class. You can bring the pictures to the into the classroom. You can give them pictures in pairs, in groups, and then you can ask them to discuss which natural disaster is this thing and what is happening in the picture, and tell how it happened, what happened later on. So this can be a input for speaking skill. So like I have other pictures also. This is fire, pictures from accidents, earthquakes. So such pictures can be shown to the students, and it can be a visual input. It can be input for speaking skill, for listening skills, and for writing skills also. And I am integrating it with the chapter. After you have discussed about all the disasters, you can give them this exercise. What disaster, its effects, what should we do during the disaster? So such exercises can be given to them. This example, whatever I'm showing you, is from the Pragati book, class 8th only, Tsunami. So now this is the reading practice. Unseen passage, seen passages practice can be given. A passage from, this is an unseen passage related to the text. Next, while reading, it's listening practice. You can read yours, you can speak out, you can read the text from the textbook. Ask the students to close their textbook, and they'll just open this sheet, and you will read out the text from the chapter, and then ask them to write down whatever detail is required in the given question. So the same text which is there in the textbook can be used as a listening text. The textbooks have to be closed. The students have to close the textbooks. The teacher will read out, the teacher will speak, and the students will be provided with these sheets, and they have to write the answers. Similarly, while reading, such activity can be given to students where they have to fill in the blanks. And again, it is a while reading activity. As the students are reading, they have to fill in the information in this flowchart. I would be talking about flowcharts also with you. Flowcharts is an excellent way of teaching prose to the students. In this, they have to fill the information, and sometimes the teacher can provide them the information. The whole chapter can be summarized in form of a flowchart. I always do flowcharts with my students, and I will ask you also to practice this flowcharts with your students. Whatever chapter you are teaching, the whole chapter or whole story can be summarized in form of a flowcharts. These days worksheets are also being provided to students 6 to 8. So there also we are putting some flowcharts in there, like how the dog found itself a master. A flowchart is given about the whole story. The whole story is summarized in one flowchart, and it gives students a clear idea how the story is progressing. In this, the students have to, while they are reading from the textbook, they have to fill in the information. These are different examples. It's a writing activity, again integrated with the textbook. They have to write 5 warning signs of tsunami from the text. They have to find out the signs of tsunami, and they have to fill in the details. Then a scene passage. And now the grammar. Grammar can also be integrated with the text. So these are the statement sentences from the chapter. They have to underline the verbs. So we are not teaching grammar in isolation, we are teaching grammar also, and we are integrating it with the text. So again, a mind map. Mind maps is a wonderful resource for any teacher. You can teach anything with help of mind maps, vocabulary, writing skills, reading skills, prose, whatever you have for characterization. I always use mind maps for characterization. Write the character in between, ask them to write about the traits of the characters. Here it is tsunami, so what's related to tsunami? Find out from the chapter and fill in this mind map. This is now a speaking activity, again integrated with the chapter. So these are situational cards related to disasters, and students have to, talk in their groups. They have to talk about these disasters, and then they have to share their experiences with the group members and later on with the class. So I'll just read out one example. What would you do if you knew that a natural disaster is going to happen and you had only one day to live? What natural disasters can happen where you live, in Delhi or in your hometown? Why? So such kind of situational cards can be used for developing speaking skills. And after they have spoken in their groups, some writing tasks can also be given. I'm just giving you different examples how to integrate all the skills with your prose, with the chapter, with the textbook, so that we are not taking textbook solely as a reading material and only for writing answers and responses. The whole language can be developed with help of this textbooks. And then it is like making connections. This is the last thing which we'll be talking about today, and tomorrow I have another session. Then I'll be sharing with you innovative strategies, prose. So we'll do some practical examples tomorrow. So last is making connections. Text to word connection, a connection between the text and something that is occurring or has occurred in the world. So this, like in tsunami also, we with the text we have connected it with the world, the different disasters that are happening around in the world. Text to text connection, a connection between the text and another story or text that you have read previously. Basically the experience, we are relating the experiences of the different texts. Text to self connection, a connection between the text and something in your own life experience. Like we can ask them, if you were in the situation of Bholi, what would you have done? So, or have you ever seen a case of child marriage or a dowry case in your own vicinity, in your friend circle? So it is basically text to self connection. In this way we can do. So I'll stop here. We'll talk about pro next session. Thank you all for being such a wonderful participants, and you all were so interactive. And any questions, if you have any queries, any feedback, you can please share right now. Innovative strategies and ways of dealing and teaching prose I would be doing in the next session, that is tomorrow.
Thank you so much, Shilpa ma'am. With surprise, with all the participants are listening to you with patience.
Yes.
They are not in hurry at all, but I think the
Right.
time is
Yes,
time is
I can
running.
understand. I can understand.
Yeah. Well, they are taking interest. I think a very interesting topic you are taking. Very live examples you are giving. Such an interesting and interactive session we are having. But I'm also bound with timings, so that's why I was messaging you. So
No issues,
tomorrow
ma'am. I
also,
can understand.
tomorrow as well, we have a session with